Hello, my name is Marcus, and today we're going to be creating this. So let's go up into Layer, New, Solid, and let's just call this Stream, not Streege. There you go, Stream. And now we're going to pre-compose this, Control-Shift-C, move all attributes, yes, please. We're going to call it _1 or _A because we're going to make several different versions of this stream here. So, okay. So I'm going to press Control-K to bring up the composition settings. And we're going to take the height all the way down to, let's say, 150. Yeah, 150. So the solid still has the previous dimensions, that is full HD, and we want it to actually fit this box. So you can press Control-Shift-Y while being on the solid here. You can just click on Make Comp Size and it will automatically adjust to the composition. And let's make it black as well, because we're going to apply a fractal noise. So, okay. So let's go back to our main comp here, and let's actually start by making a control layer. So layer, new, and null object. I'm going to call this control. There we go. And we're going to apply a fractal noise to this bad boy. And we're going to select this fractal noise, and we're going to go up into edit and copy with property links, because now we can go back into our stream and just paste this bad boy. And see, now in our main comp, we can actually just play around with these settings. Let's just hide the text in the meanwhile. We don't need that. So let's increase the contrast here, play around with the brightness. Maybe even going to transform, unlink the uniform scaling, and let's make it quite stretchy, something like this. So let's get some stretchiness up in this bad boy here. So we wanted to have the soft fall off. Right now it's just a, just a square that's not very elegant now, is it? So let's go into the stream here and let's go up into masks, select the rectangle tool and double click. That way it automatically creates a mask that fills out the entire solid. So let's just play around with this bad boy. So Control-T while having the mask selected. That way you can edit it, and if you hold Control down by scaling it down, it's going to scale down symmetrically. I'm going to unlink this feather, and I'm going to just feather it a smidge here. Just give it a smidge of a feather, something like this, so we get these nice soft edges. All right. So now we're going to start applying some color to these bad boys. So let's go over here into Effects and Presets. Let's write Toner. That's right, baby. Toner, double click on that bad boy. Let's set it to Pentone, so we got 5 juicy colors. I'm going to click on it, edit, copy with property links, just like before, go into stream and paste. There we go. Now it's inheriting the colors. That's what we want. So let's start playing around. Let's give it like a nice bright cyan, always, come on, let's face it, cyan is just sexy. Let's just give it a little different types of blue, so you hue, depending on the brightness and stuff like that. It's quite sexy. I mean, come on, let's just, all right. So we also want to rig the stream up to be so that we can animate it easily or animate several of them easily. So I'm going to go into Effects and Presets again. I'm going to write Slider and double click on that bad boy. So first of all, I'm going to rename this to Offset Speed. Let's just call it that. And we're going to duplicate this and call it Evolution Speed. So now we have these two sliders set up. So let's start attaching them to the fractal noise effect here. So let's click on Offset Turbulence, so we get this nice little expression thing in your face. And let's write a square brackets to start with, because this property has 2 values, x and y, so it's an array of values, which means that we have to use square brackets to modify either value. So let's go in here, let's write time times, and then just pig whip up to offset speed, and then comma 0. So we're saying the first value, x value, please multiply this by whatever we attach to the slider, and the y value, don't do anything with it, just be a lazy piece of stuff. All right, so now we also do the exact same thing for evolution. So I'm going to click on evolution. So just going to write time multiplied by evolution speed. There we go. So see, now we got some sexiness going on here because we can just animate this. So let's say that we start at 0 and then at second, 7 or 6, something like this. We're going to set this to something extravagant like 2,500 and this to, 500. So see, now it animates faster and faster over time, and isn't that just plain sexy? Let's start warping these meshes thing here. So right now our anchor point is in the middle of this layer. I do not want that. I want it to be over in the left. So I'm going to press P to get up the position and Shift A to also bring up the anchor point. There's several tools and scripts that can do this easily for you, like for example move anchor point, which I'm a big fan of, but you can also do this manually. So in the X of the anchor point, 960 is halfway through the length of this entire layer. So if we basically add 960 again, it will go all the way to the end. Now, of course, the position is offset, so we just do the exact same thing. In position X, we add 960, and wham-a-lama ding-dong, we have the anchor point all the way over to the right. So now let's start centering this bad boy. So I'm just going to move the position until it hits approximately the middle, something like this. Maybe scale it down, Shift S to scale it. And now we're going to actually warp it so that it can have these nice wispy effects. So let's go over into Effects and Presets. Let's add a good old-fashioned mesh warp. Double click on that bad boy. Right now there are a lot of points. We do not need this many points. This is extravagance. So I'm just going to say 2 rows and 2 columns, please. And we can increase the quality if it doesn't quite soothe our needs. But to start with, this is quite fine. So we can basically just start moving this stuff around, something like this. I'm actually going to scale this in the middle here. So we actually start from quite broad and then scale down as we get closer to the middle. So see, now we have this nice flowing organic curvature to it, right? And I mean, come on, isn't that just sexy? So I'm going to the stream here and just going to play around with these settings here. So first of all, I'm going to add a unmult effect. Unmult. There we go. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a free plugin you can get a hold of. And what it does is just it eliminates the black from the frame. And that's quite nice if you just want anything above black, basically. And we're going to add a curves adjustment here, because we're going to actually boost the alpha. We're actually going to scale this mask down a little bit more. Control T. Just squeeze it in, something like this. And now we're just gonna, in the curves here, we're just gonna boost the heck out of the alpha, something like this. So we get something a little bit more organic and wispy and what have you. And we can even start applying some delicious glows to this bad boy. So I'm just gonna write glow here, glow. Double click on that bad boy. And we're going to set it all the way down to 10 glow threshold. And we're going to choose A and B colors because we want full control. And we're going to give it some nice cyan, something like this. A little bit more bluish, something like this along these lines. Now, sometimes it doesn't choose the right contrast. See, right now it's better to rotate the color face 180 so that the brightest color is in the center and the least brightest color is at the outside, so to speak. So when you're happy with it, you can just duplicate it once again, and you can just increase the brightness of the next glow or the radius. And let's just color pick once again. Let's color pick the previous color, give it a little bit more color, something like this. Duplicate again. So now we're starting to get some really nice glowiness to it. So you can even play around with the contrast, so it seems more energy-y. And what's cool is, see, now we've already animated something on this control layer. So press EU to bring up the keyframes. And we're gonna take the brightness and take it almost all the way up, something like this. I'm gonna keyframe it. And then at the beginning, I'm just gonna tone the brightness all the way down. So it seems that over time, it starts to generate more and more energy going towards the middle until it becomes completely bright. So see, now we want several versions of this, right? So we also want it to randomize per every single stream that we make. So if we go into the stream here, and we go into this specific random noise, we want this one to randomize every single time. So go into evolution options, and here we have the random seed. So I'm going to double click on random seed, and that will bring it up here someplace. And it already has an expression, but we're just going to change that. So we're going to say seed random. I'm going to say 0, true. And then the next part here, we're just going to write random, and then 0 and whatever you want, 50, something like this. So now every single time we duplicate this composition, it's basically going to take a new random seed based on this composition and choose a random number between 0 and 50. So we can see this in the project quite easily. So if you go up into the stream here and you duplicate it, let's just call it B. There we go. Double click on that bad boy. So if we go down to the random seed, you'll see the random seed is 49, while in the A version it's 14. So every single time we duplicate this, it's going to have a new random seed, but it's still going to be attached to that animation. So if we duplicate this stream and just replace it with the new B stream, and let's just press R to rotate. So now we have quite a few versions going on here. So let's set them all to, let's say, screen, so that they blend with each other and they become a lot more sensual in nature. So now we want to add some life and some movement to all of these streams so that they look a little bit more organic and move around a smidge. So let's go over here into the control layer and let's apply a slider once again. Double click on that bad boy. I'm just going to call this stream wiggle. Oh yeah. Going to press E so that we expose this effect down here. I'm going to go down into just one of the streams, doesn't matter which. I'm going to press S for scale and out click on this bad boy. So I'm going to make capital A equals, and I'm going to pick whip to this stream wiggle. Now I'm going to go one line down, and I'm going to start square brackets because, as you recall, this has 2 dimensions, so we need square brackets. What we want to do is actually write value square brackets 0 and then value square brackets 1 plus A. So see, now it's going to take its original value of x, square brackets is indicating that it's the first value, x, and value the second value, which is y. As you can see here, it's going to take that y value plus the wiggle information that we're giving it. So we can already now right click on the scale and click on copy expression only, and then select all the other stream layers and paste. So if you press scale now, you will see they all have that expression attached to them, which is awesome. So see, now with the wiggle stream here, we're going to write a wiggle expression in this wiggle. So I'll click on slider here. We're going to write wiggle. And we could say something quite low, so 1 and 20. And now you can see they individually just wiggle around a bit. It's not a lot, but it's just to add more life to the entire scene. As you can see, once it starts moving, it moves a little bit organically, which is quite nice. So now let's create the ball of a light. So let's go up here into layer, new, solid. Let's call this ball of light. There we go. Let's make it something quite bright, like a cyan thingamabob thingamajig up here. Okay, so I'm just going to go up here into mask. I'm going to select ellipse tool. I'm going to go into the middle and hold Control, Alt, and Shift down to make it this perfectly symmetrical centered sphere. And there we go. We can add a little bit of a feather, just a smidge of a hint. We're primarily going to be keyframing the expansion down here. So we're going to take it all the way until, let's look at control keyframes to see where we end. Perfect, it's at 6 seconds. So I'm going to click on the expansion right here. I'm going to do something quite large like this. And I'm going to go all the way to the beginning and just zoom it down, basically. And the cool thing is we can basically just take the glows of the streams, copy, paste it onto the ball, because then it's just gonna react just like the others. You can even set the ball to screen as well so that it blends nicely with the streams, and just place it below the control layer. So now let's start adding some nice anticipation and shaky and organicness to this entire thing. So let's go up here into layer, new, adjustment layer, which is going to modify everything underneath, and I'm going to call it screen shake. There we go, shake it, baby. And let's go over here into effects and presets, and let's apply a transform. There we go. Which I apparently can't write. There we go. And a slider controller, because we're going to modify the settings of each wiggle. So first slider I'm going to call times. I'm going to duplicate it, and the second one I'm going to call amount. There we go. So first of all, let's click on control layer again and U to get the keyframes. Let's start by keyframing the transform. So here on, let's just keyframe scale. Let's take it up to 140. Whoopsie daisy. 140, something like this, quite extravagant. And at the beginning, we're just going to set it to 100 like it was before. So we scale in over time to make it more dramatic. And now let's apply the wiggle effects, right? So go up into position, alt click, and let's write an expression. So wiggle. And now we're going to pig whip to the times slider, and then comma, and then pig whip to the amount slider. There we go. And now we have this nice little wiggle set up here. So we can actually set this to, let's say, 12 the times, and keyframe the amount. So at the beginning it's 0, and when we get to 6 seconds, let's say it's like 20. So to start the big explosion thing here, or the big flash of light, you can basically take the ball and then keyframe it, the scale, and then go 1 frame forward and just scale the living bejesus out of it, something like this. So I want to cut off all these layers right after. So I actually have a shortcut for this, which is Alt-O. But this is a custom shortcut I've set up. If you go up into Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, you can edit the shortcuts in After Effects yourself. So I would recommend that. So I'm gonna now unhide this text layer. I'm gonna set it to Start right here, so Alt-I. Again, this is a custom shortcut. And I'm gonna make some keyframes to the shakiness. So I'm gonna set it to like 40 right after we explode, and then have it ease out all the way down to 0. Same with the scale. Let's take it back to 100. Let's start by making the noise energy. So layer, new, solid. Let's call it noise energy. Let's set it to black. There we go. And let's apply a good old, you know it, with some cheese, fractal noise. God, I love fractal noise. All right. So here we have, oh, this noise is also moving around. Sexy. So let's just make it dynamic. Let's invert it, so it's a little bit more energy-esque. Let's hide it to begin with. And let's start by applying a image wipe to this wonderful piece of text. And I'm gonna set it to look at the noise energy with the effects and masks. So now if I animate this, you can see it's animating the noise away. And let's just say the reveal happens around here, so completion 0. Take it all the way over here and just animate it fully away. Now let's apply some other effects to this text. So let's start by a fast blur, which I apparently cannot spell. Double click, just 1, just to get rid of that sharp edge, maybe 0.5. And then we're going to apply a displacement map. There you go. The exact same thing as the image wipe. We're going to attach it to the noise energy with the effects and masks. We're going to set it to look at luminance all the way through. It's not about color, it's about brightness. Let's just keyframe these bad boys, and let's go to the beginning of the text layer. Let's just crank it up something vicious. So minus 60 and 60. So just, merges into place. And we can even now start animating the energy as well. So we can basically duplicate this text layer. And I'm actually gonna eliminate all of these. Gonna go up into Cheesy, select all these effects, edit, copy with property links, and paste it onto this effect. And let's apply a vector blur. Double click on that bad boy. We're just gonna keep it at natural. Let's take it up to like 30. Set it to 90. In these numbers here, and 0.2 and 22. And now we're going to set it to please look at the noise energy once again, just like the other one. So that's quite sexy. Now we got some nice noise thing going on. We can even duplicate the vector blur and set it to 180 as well, so that we get a little bit more wispiness. It's blurring to several sides at once. It's a little bit more energy-esque, so you can play around with that to your satisfaction. Up in layer, new. Adjustment layer. We're just going to call it glow. And you guessed it, we're going to start applying some glows. So I'm basically just going to copy the glows from one of the streams, paste it. Already now we got something quite sexy. So the glow is actually going to look different if we apply a black background underneath. So layer, new, solid. Just call it BG for black background. And put it at the very bottom. You can actually see it makes quite a difference in the glow. It's remapping the values more correctly once it has that black underneath. I'm actually going to decrease the opacity of the energy, maybe down to 10 or something. So we just get this nice, subtle energy glow around it. So now let's look at the Shockwave as the last effect here. Make a new layer. And there we go, solid. And let's just call this Shockwave. And let's make this 1080 times 1080, so it's a perfect square. Let's pre-compose this immediately, Control-Shift-C. And sure, let's just call it Shockwave. Let's not be innovative in any way, manner, or form. And also we're going to make the composition square. So Control K to bring out the composition and 1080. There we go. Let's make ourselves a shockwave. So double click on this mask, bad boy here. And let's apply a fractal noise. There we go. So we can see what we're doing. We can even increase the contrast and the size. Now let's animate this mask. So it's going to be quite a quick animation. So I'm going to just keyframe the expansion and go all the way to minus until I can't see anything at the very beginning. And we're going to select this keyframe, Control Shift K, which brings up the keyframe velocity. I love using this. So I'm going to set to speed 0 and influence 100. And same with the first one, Control Shift K, and I'm going to leave it as it is. So what I just did, if you look into the graph editor, the first one is at full speed and the last one is at absolutely 0 speed and has a lot of influence. So it's going to start very fast and move very slow at the end. So I'm going to duplicate this mask here. I'm going to set it to subtract. I'm just going to offset these keyframes a smidge because now, whamma-lamma ding dong, we have ourselves a shockwave. Now we only want it to actually show in the sides because it had this weird sideways shockwave as I showed before. So we're going to make a new layer up here, solid. We're going to call this alpha, baby. And we're just going to make this mask quite roughly ourselves because it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. It actually adds a little bit of, organicness to it, that it's not symmetrical. Whoopsie daisy. And there we go. Now we got this nice weird form, and we're going to set this top layer to be stencil alpha. So it basically masks out everything underneath, and that is, come on, that's just sexy. I'm going to press F to bring up the feather. I'm just going to feather this quite a smidge, so we just get this nice feathery look here. All right, so let's go back into our main comp. So if we move the shockwave all the way to the end, so it's actually going to inherit all the glow, which is quite nice. We can even scale it up a smidge so that it reaches all the way to the sides. And now let's start applying some good old-fashioned effects. So, turbulent displacement. We can even set it to screen or something just to make sure it doesn't inherit the black part. And we can play around with this, play around with the size. And now let's apply an echo effect. Bam. And let's set this to maximum, and let's play around with the decay a bit. So 95. We can even play around with the timing as well. But if we start to make several copies, you can see, woof, it starts to copy that effect over time, which is quite cool. So I'm going to set this to decay quite a smidge more, something like this. You can even play around with the actual exposure. So if you apply an exposure effect and put it before everything else, you can tone down the exposure so the brightness is much lower, so it becomes a little bit more wispy and organic, and you can play around with the decay so that it decays less over time, something like this. If you want to receive a mail whenever there are new templates, advanced templates, tools, presets, courses, etc., then I would recommend joining the newsletter. You can find the link in the description. If you like these type of text and logo reveal tutorials, then I can recommend the playlist that is showing on the screen here on the left. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to see what you guys can create with this. Have a wonderful day with some cheese.